Dark Ascension, the 57th Magic the Gathering expansion, came out February 3rd, 2012. And, like its predecessor, Innistrad, it's a top-down design set based around gothic and traditional horror tropes and themes. Storyline-wise, Dark Ascension focuses upon the plane being overrun by werewolves, vampires, zombies, ghosts, and other nightmarish creatures, as humanity fights a losing battle for survival.
So the story of Dark Ascension is that the humans are in trouble. Like when we start in, humans are not in great shape in normal Innistrad, but we needed things to get worse because we were setting up our story. So the idea of Dark Ascension was humans are at the worst point ever in the history of Innistrad. They're on the brink of extinction.
As for the full story of the Innistrad block, we recommend you check out our Innistrad Magic History video. We have a pretty good overall story summary there for you. As for the 158 card Dark Ascension set itself, development was headed up by Tom Lapilli, who was on the Innistrad design team. Mark Rosewater led Dark Ascension design.
Innistrad and Dark Ascension, I was the lead designer of both of them. Normally I led the fall set, the large set, and then I didn't lead the small sets. But the following year, we were doing Return to Ravnica, and Ken Nagel, I was training Ken Nagel, and I thought a return set would be a really good chance for his first large set. So I let him do Return to Ravnica, so I ended up doing Dark Ascension, which is not something I normally do. I think this is the only set where I did two sets, or at least the only set where I did the large set and the first small set. I think there's a few blocks where I did the first set and the third set.
Dark Ascension saw the return of double-face cards, Flashback, Morbid, and Curses from its predecessor, while also adding in two new mechanics, the first of which being Fateful Hour.
Fateful Hour is the first mechanic I made because I was trying to show how desperate things were. And so the idea was, well, here's a mechanic that only works when you're desperate. Only when you're near death does it work. And so it was trying to capture the plight of the humans.
As for that second mechanic, it took some doing to figure out what it should be and how it should work.
What happened was, we back in the old day, we would have design and development. And there was a period in between, which was kind of the tail end of design, called Divine, where development would start giving notes and design would start addressing the notes. But, usually there's about a 2-month gap. So we had some time to work on notes. So when we were handing it off, development was happy what we were handing off. One of the notes I got from Tom Lapilli, who was the lead developer of the set, was I was very focused on the plight of the humans. The humans were dying, and oh my gosh, it's so horrible, and everything's so bleak. And he's like, but yes, the humans are there, and yes, the humans are dying, but what's the cool part of the set? Well, there's all these monsters, these awesome monsters, and you get to play the monsters, and isn't it, like, when people role play, they want to play the fun thing, like, I'm near death. It's not particularly fun. And so he said, can you do something? Can you play up the monsters? And I said, he's absolutely right. And so I said, I'm going to make a monster mechanic. In the movies, you kill the monster is dead, and then you go on, and then just when you think, oh no, the monster's not really dead. That's like a classic trope of horror films. The monster's not actually dead. So I'm like, how do we do that? And the mechanic that came closest was Persist.
Persist uses -1/-1 counters, which was a problem, seeing as Dark Ascension doesn't use -1/-1 counters anywhere within the set. The simple solution? Lean into the set's already existing +1/+1 counters instead.
It dies and it comes back stronger. Now, I will say it's much harder to balance Undying. Creature gets better, it's a lot harder to balance, or at least balance it so it looks like a halfway decent creature when you first play it. It's easier, when it comes back with a -1/-1 counter, it's easier to make that look, easier to balance that a little bit. But I thought Undying was exciting, and it played into the trope really well. And so we had our human mechanic in Fateful Hour, we had our monster mechanic in Undying, and so that's where Undying came from.
The set also has 5 cycles, increasing flashback cards, each of which have an ability that doubles when cast via flashback, such as with the card increasing Savagery, which doubles the amount of +1/+1 counters it puts onto target creature from 5 to 10. Allied flashback cards, each having a flashback cost of a color that is allied with the card's actual color identity. Enemy flashback cards, which are similar to the set's cycle of allied flashback cards, except that the flashback cost is of an enemy color rather than an allied one. Mythic rare tribal cards, which is a cycle of 4, rather than the traditional 5, cards that are associated with one of the 4 monster tribes associated with the plane of Innistrad, and Tribal Lords, another cycle of 4 cards that each provide some sort of beneficial buff and boon to the respective tribal cards. And you might notice that, in those last 2 cycles, the green-white allied color pair was not represented. This was done to emphasize the monsters taking over, as green-white was reserved for humans in the block.
The human one shows up in Ascension Restored. But we made, so we took it and we raised up the theme a little bit, and so Dark Ascension definitely played up the monsters a little bit more, and so there was more monster typo than it was in other sets.
Oh, and there's also a nifty vertical cycle mixed in with the cards Scorned Villager, Lambhold Elder, and Huntmaster of the Fells, each of which take inspiration from the Brothers Grimm fairy tale of Little Red Riding Hood, except for, in this case, all 3 cards turn into big, bad wolves. Beyond these cycles, Dark Ascension also has a number of other cards worth a mention, including Elbrus the Binding Blade, an equipment card that can turn into a game-finishing creature called Withengard Unbound. Faithless Looting, a red card draw spell that would wind up being banned in August of 2019 in Modern thanks to its prevalence in a number of graveyard-focused strategies. Geralf's Messenger, a 3/2 with Undying for 3 black. It's a life-attacking tempo card that gets stronger when it dies. Grafdigger's Cage, a popular and powerful sideboard card against graveyard-focused strategies. Gravecrawler, a 1-drop 2/1 creature that can be cast from the graveyard. It and the aforementioned Geralf's Messenger were key components in the zombie tribal decks of Standard at the time. Huntsmaster of the Fells, which saw much competitive play in the day thanks to it gaining its caster life as well as being a formidable damage outlet. Lingering Souls, an uncommon that saw widespread use across a number of formats thanks to its ability to create a good number of creatures over the course of multiple turns. Mikaeus the Unhallowed, a storyline evolved version of the original Mikaeus legendary creature from Innistrad. The card is no stranger to commander play. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, a staple in Modern and Legacy Death and Taxes builds, and Tragic Slip, a spot removal card that can get around indestructibility. As for the set's promotional cards, Dark Ascension had a few, including the card Ravenous Demon / Archdemon of Greed, the set's pre-release promo, Mondrian Shaman / Tollivar's Mage Hunter, the set's release promo. Game Day attendees received a full art Strangleroot Geist, while top 8 finishers also received a full art foil Zombie Apocalypse. The set's buy box promo was an alternate art Gravecrawler. So looking back, what does Mark Rosewater think about this middle set from the original Innistrad block?
Dark Ascension, I think, is the only second set I've ever led. The big thing about Dark Ascension is I think I really took a wrong turn, and Tom Lapilli, who was the lead developer, like in Divine, really corrected me and really made me refocus on the idea of what is the exciting thing about this set? Why do you want to play this set? And that you want the set to be fun. Like, the set isn't supposed to be about like not having fun. And so the idea of recognizing that the monsters were the theme, that was one of my sort of design lessons that I've taken to heart. And so it's kind of one of my biggest design lessons. And I really look back at Dark Ascension like, wow, I learned something really important on this set.
So what are your thoughts on Dark Ascension? Let us know in the comment section below. Thank you very much to Mark Rosewater for his time, and if you would like to support Magic Untapped, please like this video and subscribing to the channel here on YouTube. Also, we have a tip jar on Patreon if you are feeling so generous. Thank you for watching.